Reading through the Bible in 1 year. February 25th, Exodus 10 through 11, Job 20, Mark 13, and 1 Corinthians 7, 17 through 40. Then the Lord said to Moses, Then the Lord said to Moses, Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, that I may show these signs among them, and that I may tell in the hearing of your son and of your grandson, that you may tell in the hearing of your son and your grandson, how I have dealt harshly with the Egyptians and what signs I have done to them, or done among them, that you may know that I am the Lord. Again, the whole reason why God is doing this is so that he can show them who he is and show them his power. Make sense? All right, cool. Let's go on. So Moses and Aaron went into Pharaoh and said to him, Thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go that they may serve me. For if you refuse to let my people go, behold, I will bring in locusts into your country, and they shall cover the face of the land, so that no one can see the land. And they shall eat what is left to you after the hail, and they shall eat every tree of yours that grows in the field. And they shall fill your houses and the houses of your servants, and all the Egyptians, the houses of all your servants and of all the Egyptians, as neither your fathers nor your grandfathers have seen, from the day that they came on the earth to this day. Then he turned and went out from Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh's servants said to him, How long shall this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Do you not yet understand that Egypt is ruined? So Moses and Aaron were brought back into Pharaoh, and he said to them, Go, serve the Lord your God. But which ones are to go? Moses said, We will go with our young and our old. We will go with our sons and our daughters, with our flocks and our herds, for we must hold a feast to the Lord. But he said to them, The Lord be with you, if I ever let you and your little ones go. Look, you have some evil purpose in mind. No, go, the men among you, and serve the Lord, for that is what you were asking. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locust, so that they may come upon the land of Egypt, and eat every plant in the land, and all that the hail is left. So Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt. And the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. When it was morning, the east wind had brought the locust. The locust came up over the land of Egypt and settled on the whole country of Egypt. Such a dense swarm of locusts as had never been seen before, nor ever will be again. And they covered the face of the whole land, so that the land was darkened. And they ate all the plants in the land, and all the fruit of the trees that the hail had left. Not a thing remained, neither tree nor plant of the field, through all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh hastily called Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now, therefore, please forgive my sin. Please, only the once plead with the Lord your God, only to remove this death from me. So he went out from Pharaoh and pleaded with the Lord, and the Lord turned the wind into a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them out into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in all the country of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people go. Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over all the land of Egypt, a darkness to be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was pitch darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days. But all the people of Israel had light where they lived. Then Pharaoh called Moses and said, Go, serve the Lord. Your little ones also may go with you. Let only your flocks and your herds remain behind. But Moses said, You must also let us have sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. Our livestock also must go with us, and not a hoof shall be left behind, for we must take of them to serve the Lord our God. And we do not know with what we must serve the Lord until we arrive there. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, "Get away from me, and take care to never to see my face again. For on the day you see my face, you shall die." Moses said, "As you say, I will not see your face again." The Lord said to Moses, "Yet one more plague I will bring upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterward, he will let you go from here. When he lets you go, he will drive you away completely. Speak now in the hearing of the people, that they ask every man of his neighbor and every woman of her neighbor for silver and gold jewelry." And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants and in the sight of the people. So Moses said, "Thus says the Lord, about midnight I will go out into the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on the throne, even to the firstborn of the slave girl who's behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the cattle. There shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there has never been, nor ever will be again. But not a dog shall growl against any of the people of Israel, either man or beast, that you may know that the Lord makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. And all these your servants shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, 'Get out, you and all the people who follow you.' And after that I will go out." And when he went out from Pharaoh in hot anger, then the Lord said to Moses, "Pharaoh will not listen to you, that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt." Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go out of his hand, or out of his land. Job 20. So now this is Zophar, who is another friend. A friend who has spoken before. This is his final contribution in the exchange of views between the friends of Job. Air quotes, friends. Okay. Now he's responding to Job, who's basically just saying, "Please stop attacking me and just help me. And if you won't help me, be silent. But remember that what I'm saying is true. You've known me before. I've never lied before. Why would I lie now? I have not sinned before God. I don't know what is happening." So here's Zophar, the Naamathite, is answering. "Therefore my thoughts answer me because of my haste within me. I hear censure that insults me, and out of my understanding a spirit answers me. Do you not know this from of old? Since man was placed on the earth, that the exalting of the wicked is short, and that the joy of the godless but for a moment? Though his height mount up to the heavens, and his head reach to the clouds, he will perish forever like his own dung. Those who have seen him will say, 'Where is he?' He will fly away like a dream and not be found. He will be chased away like a vision of the night. The eye that saw him will see him no more, nor will his place any more behold him. His children will seek the favor of the poor. His hands will give back his wealth. His bones are full of his youthful vigor, but will lie down with him in the dust. Though evil is sweet in his mouth, though he hides it under his tongue, though he loathes to let it go and holds it in his mouth, yet his food is turned in his stomach. It is the venom of cobras within him. He swallows down riches, then vomits them up again. God casts them out of his belly. He will suck the poison of cobras. The tongue of a viper will kill him. He will not look upon the rivers, the streams flowing with honey and curds. He will give back the fruit of his toil, and will not swallow it down. From the profit of his trading, he will get no enjoyment, for he has crushed and abandoned the poor. He has seized a house that he did not build. Because he knew no contentment in his belly, he will not let anything in which he delights escape him. There was nothing left after he had eaten. Therefore his prosperity will not endure. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he will be in distress. The hand of everyone in misery will come against him. To fill his belly to the full, God will send his burning anger against him and rain it upon his body. He will flee from an iron weapon. A bronze arrow will strike him through. It is drawn forth and comes out of his body. The glittering point comes out of his gallbladder. Terrors come upon him. Utter darkness is laid up for his treasures. A fire not fanned will devour him. What is left in his tent will be consumed. The heavens will reveal his iniquity, and the earth will rise up against him. The possessions of his house will be carried away, dragged off in the day of the God's wrath. This is the wicked man's portion from God, the heritage decreed for him by God. Again, they're just laying on him all of these accusations that, look, you are getting what you deserve. God, we know God to be faithful. We know God to be kind. We know God to always do good to those who seek to follow him. Therefore, if bad things are happening to you, you must be a wicked person. Admit your wickedness to God. Right, Mark 13. And as Jesus came out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, wonderful stones and what wonderful buildings." Jesus said to him, "Do you see these great buildings? There will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." And in fact, they're still there today. There are places in Jerusalem at the, like near the Wailing Wall, where you can find piles of stones. Those stones were thrown down from the Temple Mount. It was leveled. And as he sat on the Mount of Olives opposite the temple, Peter and James and John and Andrew asked him privately, "Tell us, when will these things be? What will be the sign when all these things are about to be accomplished?" Jesus began to say to them, "See that no one leads you astray. Many will come in my name, saying, 'I am he,' and they will lead many astray. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. This must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places. There will be famines. These are but the beginning of the birth pains. Be on your guard, for they will deliver you over to councils. You will be beaten in synagogues, and you will stand before governors and kings for my sake, to bear witness before them. And the gospel must first be proclaimed to all nations. When they bring you to trial and deliver you over, do not be anxious beforehand what you are to say, but say whatever is given you in that hour. For it is not you who speak, but the Holy Spirit. And brother will deliver brother over to death, and the father his child. And his children will rise against parents and have them put to death. And you will be hated by all for my name's sake. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. But when you see the abomination of desolation standing where he ought not to be," let the reader understand. There's a note on this. Daniel 11:31 predicts the coming of the king of the north, who will desecrate the temple. The prediction was first fulfilled in 168 BC, when Antiochus, and this guy, for Epiphanes set up a pagan altar and sacrificed a pig in the most holy place. In AD 70, the Old Testament text was definitely fulfilled when Titus, the Roman general, sacked the temple, tore it apart, and threw everything off the edge. Then let those who were in Judea flee to the mountains. Let the one who is on the housetop not go down nor enter his house to take anything out, and let the one who is in the field not turn back to take his cloak. And alas, for women who are pregnant, and for those who are nursing infants in those days, pray that it may not happen in winter. For in those days there will be such a tribulation as has not been from the beginning of creation that God created, beginning of the creation that God created until now, and never will be. And if the Lord had not cut short the days, no human being would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, whom he chose, he shortened the days. Then if anyone says to you, "Look, here is the Christ," or "Look, there he is," do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform signs and wonders to lead astray, if possible, the elect. But be on guard. I have told you all things beforehand. But in those days, after that tribulation, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And they will see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory. Then he will send out the angels and gather his elect from the four winds and from the ends of the earth to the ends of heaven. From the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as this branch becomes tender and puts out leaves, you know that summer is near. So when you see these things, also when you see these things taking place, you know that he is near, at the very gates. Truly, I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But concerning that day or hour, no one knows. Not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Be on guard. Keep awake. For you do not know when the time will come. It is like a man going on a journey, when he leaves home and puts his servants in charge, each with his work, and commands the doorkeeper to stay awake. Therefore stay awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening or at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or in the morning, lest he come suddenly and find you asleep. What I say to you all, stay awake. Now 1 Corinthians 7:17 through 40. So he's still talking about marriage, or Paul is. We can see that's right up here, principles for marriage, right? And remember that Paul is single in this time. We don't know if he started off single. We know that he's single now. We don't know if his wife died or something happened. That's not said in the text of Scripture. But we do know is that it was hard for somebody to become a member of the Sanhedrin, which it's believed that Paul was, without them being married first married. So it's possible that he was married and that his wife died, or something along those lines. We don't know exactly what happened, but we know that now he is single. So, all right, let's pick up in verse 17. Only let each person lead the life that the Lord has assigned to him, and to which God has called him. This is my rule in all the churches. Was anyone at the time of his call already circumcised? Let him not seek to remove the marks of circumcision. Was anyone at the time of his call uncircumcised? Let him not seek circumcision. For neither circumcision counts for anything, nor uncircumcision, but keeping the commandments of God. Circumcision was something that happened in the Old Testament to mark that you were part of the holy people of God, right? Again, holy meaning separated and peculiar from other people around you, right? You set apart things that are holy. This is my holy water bottle, right? This is the one that I use almost all the time. It is my favorite water bottle, and I take care of this one to keep it clean because I use it all the time, right? In the same way, the people of Israel made themselves peculiar by the people around them by observing specific practices. So other people would see it and go, why are you doing these things? Or why aren't you open on, Saturday, or all of these other things? And then they would respond that, well, we do this for our God. That was the point of it, right? And also Sabbath allowed the people to have a day of rest so that they would rest from their work, that they would trust that God would meet all of their needs, that they wouldn't have to work those days, and that God would take care of them, right? In the same way that Jesus today is our Sabbath rest. He has completed all the work on our behalf. We take our rest daily in him because we cease from chasing after all of these different ways to serve ourselves or to to find a way to save ourselves from God's wrath because he's done it on our behalf. All right, continuing on. Each one should remain in the condition in which he was called. Were you a bondservant when called? Slave. Do not be concerned about it. But if you can gain your freedom, avail yourself the opportunity. For he who is called in the Lord is a bondservant, as a bondservant or a slave, is a freedman in the Lord, right? Likewise, he who is free when called is a slave of Christ. That's literally what the term means. Bondservant here. Bring it up. Slave, slavery, pertaining to a state of being completely controlled by someone. It goes into detail on it, but I can bring it up here if you want to read it. There it is, pertaining to a state of being completely controlled by someone or something, subservient to, controlled by. You can see every time bondservant is used here, that is the word that is meant. All right. I'll leave it up. So I'm going to use the term slave every time we see it here. You were bought with a price. Do not become servants or slaves of men. So, brothers, in whatever condition each was called, let him remain with God. Now, concerning the betrothed, these are the people who were engaged. I have no command from the Lord, but I give my judgment as one who, by the Lord's mercy, is trustworthy. I think that in view of the present distress, again, they were under intense persecution, it is good for a person to remain as he is. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be free. Are you free from a wife? Do not seek a wife. But if you do marry, you've not sinned, and if a betrothed woman marries, she has not sinned. Yet those who marry will have worldly troubles, and I would spare you that. This is what I mean, brothers. The appointed time has grown very short. From now on, let those who have wives live as though they had none, and those who mourn as though they were not mourning, and those who rejoice as though they were not rejoicing, and those who buy as though they had no goods, and those who deal with the world as though they had no dealings with it, for the present form of the world is passing away. I want you to be free from anxieties. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord. But the married man is anxious about worldly things, how to please his wife, and his interests are divided. You got to buy a house. You got to make sure you have a mortgage, a decent price on your mortgage that you can pay. You have to make sure that you have enough money set aside for retirement. You have to have rainy day fund in case something goes poorly. You lose your job, whatever. Someone ends up time in the hospital. You have to be able to pay for that. If you have children, you got to take care of those children. Make sure they get well educated. You have to find a good church that you have to be, involved in. You can't, at the drop of a hat, if the Lord so calls you, go to a far country and begin serving God. Right? You can't do that because you have responsibilities to your family, and that's what's being said. Okay, and the unmarried or betrothed woman is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to be holy in body and spirit. But the married woman is anxious about worldly things, how to please her husband. I say this for your own benefit, not to lay any restraint upon you, but to promote good order and to secure your undivided devotion to the Lord. If anyone thinks he is not behaving properly toward his betrothed, if his passions are strong, and it has to be, let him do as he wishes. Let them marry. It is no sin. But whoever is firmly established in his heart, being under no necessity, but having his desire, lust, under control, and has determined this in his heart to keep her as his betrothed, he will do well. So then he who marries his betrothed does well, and he who refrains from marriage will do even better, because he won't be tied down to this. Again, they were in intense persecution, right? So the man would have to defend his wife, and the wife would try to defend her husband from the persecution that was coming. But if they were not married, then he wouldn't have that legal obligation to do so. A wife is bound to her husband as long as he lives. But if her husband dies, she is free to be married to whom she wishes, only in the Lord. Yet, in my judgment, she is happier if she remains as she is. And I think that I, too, have the Spirit of God. All right, that'll do it for today, and we'll go more into this tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.